So America has to starve the beast if it wants to win this war on terror. Okay, it has to sift through the bank accounts of all these corrupt banks who are forming the middlemen. Okay, it might not have been the intention of banks to be involved with these people. Okay, the Bin Laden family, because of course they use terror. They threaten people. Okay, they don't just threaten that individual. They threaten everybody that individual knows. Okay, that is how they operate. Right, that's what makes them so such a terrible organisation. Okay, Al Qaeda I'm talking about, but Al Qaeda is just one of many networks. All right, Al Qaeda was the Bin Laden family were using the AQ Khan network to try and get nuclear weapons, for crying out loud. All right, many other networks are involved in this, but the key point is that people's business connections, people's political connections, and ultimately when people go and fight for these feudalistic elitist scum, right, those connections form reality. All right, you need to break those connections. The British have been very effective in doing this in such campaigns as Malaya, where they were fighting three insurgencies: an Islamic insurgency, a Malayan nationalist insurgency, and a ethnically Chinese Maoist insurgency, a communist insurgency in Malaya. They effectively broke those by winning hearts and minds, and that's what we're talking about here, winning hearts. Okay, so there's a military strategy in that. What is it for the civilian population? Okay, these people are fighting within our society. Okay, they're trying to subvert our society to neo-Feudalism in various different forms, and they're using doctrine, which is essentially enclosed and sealed off from rationality to do that. Okay, and also fear. All right, now the best way to have a properly working society is to use the scientific method, which says there is always a margin of error, but we need to reduce that error. Okay, so I'm not always right, but I'm trying to reduce the margin of my error. Okay, so we use rationality. But how do we get there? Stoic philosophy is a way to get there, because although Stoic philosophy might have some religious overtones with the idea of a logos, right? People, you could say, if I am not being rational and not applying criticism to Stoic philosophy itself, then I am out of step with the character of the logos. That is the way a Roman today might say it. Okay, but we can use Stoic philosophy to get to those, as the Romans called them, the silver values, the bravery, self-discipline, criticism of different things that people say. Okay, rationality, and then we won't choose those sort of politicians to lead us, and so in that way they won't have any contact with, or they'll understand the ways to seal themselves off from such neo-feudalist families, and then they can wither on the vine, so to speak, as they lose connections with people. Now, once that is achieved, those silver values are within the general population and the leadership, then you can move on to the higher aspects of rationality and philosophy and using the scientific method within democracy, so everybody will have not only a vote but a rational vote, that they will understand their vote, what the significance of that means, because a vote again is another connection. Okay, we by voting are trying to create the reality that is in our minds here out in the world. All right, and we're entrusting that those hopes, all right, to someone else. Essentially, that is slightly irrational to do, but that is why we have to be a participant in democracy. That there has to be democracy in most things, like housing and buying things and work. Why not have cooperatives? You know, there are many different things that can be done. A link in between mortgages and student loans, so that everybody can get a degree, and so that people can have decent lives. Yeah, we must get rid of inequality in society, because that is something that terrorism thrives on. And when people talk about free trade between countries, they should also think about free trade within society, because in an unequal society, people cannot trade their labour, their their intellectual and physical property with one another. It makes it much more difficult. So there's barriers to trade between people, and then that's to become castes, unless they then look for other power brokers to try and look to create the security that they should have within that society. So therefore you get an anti-society. That is what happened in Saudi Arabia, alright, and in other parts of the world where these neo-feudalist scum basically bag families who rose to the top. Okay? So we have to stop that. We have to have a social market which adapts to create the best maximum welfare for our people. You know, at the point of maximum social benefit is the economics term for it. Okay? So if we want to be good moral people and have a democracy, we must have what the Germans call a Gemeinschaft, right? Which is a national community, a national society, okay? Such as the now more equal national society, and for as I said, for the EU as a global trading bloc, will eventually create a situation where the different trading blocs are gradually creating a situation where there is the similar buying power in each block. Okay, and so once that is in place, there is democracy, there is security, there is liberty. Okay, and who would rather live in some third or fourth world feudalistic shithole where you're going to get your head chopped off, right? Or would they rather choose to have their iPod, their liberty, their freedom, to be able to understand all the different knowledge there is, be able to fly to different destinations? We are not slaves of supply and demand. Given the right circumstances, supply and demand will adapt, and price will thus adapt to what human wants, expect, rational expectations, and also what we deem them to be. Okay, human beings have free will, and we have a choice. There is the potential for good or evil in us all. Some people are absolutely ultimately evil, but most people have that choice. Okay, make that choice and try and do the best you can with the cards that fate has dealt you, and then we can achieve Stoicism as a step towards true social democracy. Thank you for listening, and peace.